Alright, well, we're halfway through. And we really are this time. 1640 turn 31. A bunch of, the Orthodox, the Muslim, and the Chinese rest of the world type people all are going to get a push forward. That's kind of big for China, rest of the world, because that means they're going to push the arquebus. And one of the events we had was an attack on Carnatic by the Mughals. They're going to absorb it, and they go to war with the Dutch over this. This is sort of a very limited war where they're only going to try to destroy the Dutch trading post there. Now, if the Dutch don't defend it, it's pretty much automatic. But if they do, then they have to fight the Mughal army as well as the natives there. Well, maybe the natives. Okay. Other events. Well, we had... I have to follow up with the English Civil War because this is where Cromwell takes over. He's on the board now, and all kind of weird stuff happens with regard to that, where they start getting their real bonuses, including possibly a military advance. But I don't think England can get it right now. We had a good Turkish leader show up in 848. That negates the 8. Administrative could cause problems, but an 8 military negates all effects of the Turkish decline for his rule. And this may be the time when the Turks try to push forward for the reform, but I've got to look that up because I'm not sure they're allowed to do it. Yeah, they are. They're not in Baroque yet, but they're past Muscat. What I was going to say is I'm not sure when they're allowed to do it and when they're not. Basically, it's not clear to me where they stop by the rules. If they have to make it into Baroque, or if they're allowed to do it otherwise. And also if they can make it into Baroque. I think I've normally played that they can. I have to put all the pashas on the board. I haven't set them up, and Turkey's going to have to make decisions as to whether or not they're going to make an attack. They got no other events this turn. So if they're doing a military reform, they may not want to do the attack because that's kind of a dangerous thing to do. Also, the Russians, I think, got an excellent minister in 866, which certainly improves their situation a little bit. No other major events here. We had a revolt in Brittany. I don't know, not a lot else. I know the revolt in Ceylon just got canceled because there's no one there yet. And shit, I don't remember what else there was. But essentially nothing happened. English and Netherlands got agricultural techniques, which is kind of, you know, a bonus for them, more money and advantages to doing stay-at-home type stuff, DTI, cereal, wine, manufacturers. Look at the pirates. Look what they did. There's one English fleet here, one Portuguese fleet here. Everything else has been wiped out because I'm playing them correctly at this point. But yeah, the pirates have really kind of taken out the whole North Sea area. And the Atlantic as well. That's kind of impressive. Who are free agents right now? The French. They're the big free agent. Spain and Netherlands have both gotten their stability up. Netherlands is not interested in starting wars, but Spain might be. They have still the Cardinal Infante, who's a pretty good leader, for a little bit longer. If they had something they could really do. I don't know if they do have something they really want to do. That's about it, I guess. Right? Spain, France, Netherlands. England and Turkey are tied up. There's got to be someone else here. Spain, France. Oh yeah, Russia. Forget about them. Alright. Onward. Okay, for diplomacy, not a lot happened except Turkey cannot make the reforms, so they declared war on the Mamluks. I don't know if this is worth anything anymore, but all that Mamluk territory still falls at once. And there are still advantages towards being able to take them out more easily. So it seems like the turn to do it. and we'll go ahead with that. Did some diplomatic playing around. France went for Prussia, and Spain went for Venice, who would be very helpful against the French. Neither one succeeded. They didn't get any ground at all. Nobody is really at war except the Turks, and they're unable to call in their only real ally, who's Algeria still, because they're more than 2 sea zones away. Turks have special limitations as to whom they can call. All right, well, I guess we go on with all the administrative stuff. A couple quick interesting events. One is the Royalists got the larger portion of the English Navy. And basically, they need to roll an 8 or higher. Anytime the English build new navies at this point, they might defect to the Royalists immediately. Sort of showing the uncertainty and chaos in the English Civil War. Here's the other thing, though. This is the Indies Orientalis fleet. I think we've seen this maybe come up once under Portugal, or maybe it didn't manage it quite. But this is a $50 treasure fleet. Now, the English don't have an admiral who can bring it home, so it's going to have to come around the Cape and suffer attrition, etc., without any modifiers. But it's a few extra bucks they get for having at least 10 products of the Orient and spices. This is something that the Dutch actually have as a victory condition for this period. I think they took. They're not going to get it, especially facing the Mughals here, etc. They're going to have to try to figure out some way of dealing with this. They may just be losing their trading post, which would be very painful. But otherwise, well, they have Stuyvesant, who's not terribly useful. They got this guy over here, Liebeck, who's got a good fire rating, so he might be able to lead a force there. But it's just an ugly, ugly situation for them at this point. Anyway, this is the worst I've seen the Dutch this early. And Austria is beginning to look very, very tempting if they keep sinking the way they are. Okay, and we're ready to go into the rounds. See if anything exciting happened expansion-wise. French increased their trading post. Largely, it's people increasing stuff. The Dutch are giving up on Tindor. They just don't think they can can get troops there in time to save it. It would have cost basically their entire effort. Instead, they upgraded Calcutta, although that's not really Calcutta, to a level 6, which kind of makes up for it, but, you know, whatever. And also worked on their DTI, which gives them a little more cash. The Royalists got kind of crapped out on their reinforcements roll, and the English managed to build their navy up. So now they actually, and they didn't lose it. So now they have a larger navy than the Royalists by a decent amount, and feel like they can keep handling the piracy issues that they're facing. Anywhere else, Mamluks, reasonable roll on their reinforcements. We're going to see a big fight there. And, you know, it's really going to be decided in the field battles. Once those are taken care of, the territory falls very quickly. So it shouldn't be, especially for the Mamluks, but it's just, you know, not a lot of fortifications there. Although Egypt itself and over here in the Sinai, there is kind of a blocker there. So that's kind of an issue. Turks, I don't think, have enough navy to really move in, but maybe they do. That's about it. Oh yeah, the Spanish got kind of lucky and managed to build a colony here on this gold mine, even though they didn't have their conquistador to go there. Well, as usual, first round's usually pretty intense. A lot of things get decided right off the bat. Let's take a look at the New World before, well, the rest of the world before we see things. The Dutch moved over to the Pacific West, expanding California and Alaska. These are known areas to them. In a way, they're kind of putting their markers down. They already discovered them, but everybody knows about them now. So they're saying, yeah, if you're thinking about this, Remember, you're going to have to do a competition with what's likely to be mine setting up here, and we have the same issue here with them showing up in Java. The French had placed into Amboina first. Again, not something they discovered here, but they're saying, hey, you're gonna have to deal with this. I forgot to sail that ship home. I probably ought to take a shot at it just because I don't know how much money the English are going to pay. They left their conquistador here at Singapore as well. That's just to keep boosting it up. There's advantages to getting things to level 6, not just for the trade goods, but because you can build a fort when you have a level 6 trading post. Akbar came in, he destroyed Tindori. I'm not sure why I'm keeping him on the map. Largely because no one else, he would intervene if somebody else came in there at this point. So that's kind of a dangerous place to go to. Although they can colonize next turn without a marker. Let's see, I think that's about it. The Russians pushed forward. They've colonized further this turn. Alright, but now to the interesting stuff here. First of all, Cromwell attacked Rupert, and Rupert is actually very good. Like, better than Cromwell as a leader. He's got a 1 point better shock, and Cromwell was able, or Rupert was able to get his whole army together. Cromwell's army was vaporized by it. Meanwhile, the English sailed here and moved into Dublin with Blake. They're planning on taking Ireland. They see that as the more important issue right now, because losing Ireland would mean losing. If they lose to the Royalists, they're still England, and they still own Ireland. They don't think they're going to lose to the Royalists that easily, though. They have to focus on Ireland, however. Whether or not the French are going to intervene? Good question. I mean, if the French send a navy out here with troops on it, I've decided the English can attack it. But here's an option. The French could shift armies into a couple of locations, make the English cover the entire channel, and really make things more dangerous. French have kept an army down here. They handled their Brittany thing. They've kept an army down in Italy because they've got a couple of thoughts in mind. One, of course, Spain. They can still go into Naples, and that's a very valuable spot for them. But the other is they're really considering an anti-Turkish crusade. They were considering this before, but they don't want to declare war quite yet. They've basically told Turkey, if you harass my merchants, I am going to go in, I'm going to take their territories, I'm going to actually, they can semi-annex these guys, and Algeria too, I believe, and build presidios, but with their launching point, I'm going to attack you. You know, I'm just going to focus on you because I want to make it hurt for what you're doing. The Turks attacked the Mamluks. The Mamluks swept up. Turkish troops retreated before them, so they laid siege to Damascus. Turks came sweeping back down. Siege of Beirut. But the Grand Vizier with the mighty main army got trounced. Major defeat. I've got to mark the victory point still. But, you know, you still got a lot of troops you can pull into this, but that was a hefty swing in victory points and a good sign that the Mamluks probably are going to survive this turn. Not a guarantee, though. There's still a lot of Turks out there. Alright, so we're done with the second round here. And what we got? English continuing up into Ulster, laying siege to it because the Irish infantry went and hid in the woods. Nothing in Britain itself, or in England itself. The English fleet slid over here, took care of the pirates on the Dutch CTZ. They can't quite reach these guys, and they are kind of afraid because they can't send just part of their fleet up there, or maybe the Royalists will hit it, and also the French would be able to land more easily if only part of the fleet's there. If they send the whole fleet, well, the French can land at Plymouth without a problem. The English don't have a way to cover everything without being in the channel, and this is a bit of a risk to this guy. And without a fleet there to protect it, nothing, you know, it's just not, it's going to be bad news. What else? Over on the Turkish front, well, they absolutely slaughtered the Mamluk army. No victory. There's like 3 strength points left. But, and remember, they got a major defeat on their hands. But now we see the advantage of, say, the Turkish Pasha system, which added an extra 40 strength points to their army, which is already a larger army than the Mamluks have. If they get rid of that, they get rid of that bonus, that huge, massive ability to just wipe things out with one good roll. Here they had to take 2 decent rolls, but yeah, they massacred the army. The way is not completely open, though. So here's the thing, because they have naval support, they could kind of bypass the fortresses and just siege Egypt. But they've got to get a little bit closer. And I think the way through Jordan seems like the wisest way, because then they can eliminate those troops. Kind of hard to tell for sure, but they don't have an easy walk there. From Judea, they could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They actually could reach from Judea. Oh no, I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, they're just too far away. So they've got to get one more territory before they can do a bypass safely. They could do one taking an attrition roll. I don't like doing that. Alright, on to the 3rd round. 3 short rounds and it's over. The Royalists failed to take, where are they at? Birmingham. The Turks, however, managed to take both Beirut and Jerusalem in the same sweeping action. The Mamluks pulled back, so Jordan looked less interesting. This got them in striking range, but honestly, at this point, they're going to try to play for a high-level peace and see if they can grab those 2 territories, set up again, and strike again. Yes, it allows the Mamluks to get their whole army back, but as long as they're gaining points and not going down in stability for being continuously at war, it makes sense for Turkey to do it that way. In fact, it may even make sense if they're losing a little bit of points on the turn. So they had to pay 5 victory points for the declaration of war, but let's say they took a piece of level 2, that would give them 4 victory points plus the victory points for the territories. It would cost Spain some victory points. The danger to it is that it allows the it'll boot the Mamluks off the track. What I was going to say is it allows the Mamluks to stay up there so that Spain can then enter the war. But even if that was the case, I wouldn't be too worried about it. Spain's got bigger issues than trying to save the Mamluks. They're not like Venice, who has a real interest in their existence. And we push into the 1645 turn 32. Net results, wow. Turks did get their peace. They rolled like a 9 to get it. Overall, they lost a victory point for the turn. The Spanish gained quite a bit off the Mamluks because they don't penalize you for the territorial losses. I don't feel like that's actually... That's just a decision by your opponent to take the territory. Now, if you're the country, you get penalized for it. But as a minor, running a minor, I just don't do that. Yeah. The rules are up to a lot of interpretation, and I'm very, very loose with them. And break them flagrantly at times. Anyway, when I look at the points, France built Versailles. I didn't think I mentioned that. That cost them 200 more points this turn. So they surged ahead to 585, well into first place. The Dutch are second at 514. English 452. Russians still hanging on at 446, but I'm telling you, they don't have a chance. And 2 more people who don't have a chance because they're doing so poorly at this point. Spain at 107 and Turkey at 94. It's just, you know, I don't mind terribly to look back and say, well, I did really poorly for that country. The Russia bone, I feel, is really unacceptable. Here's the other thing that's unacceptable is the fact that the individual campaigns are probably not terribly well balanced. I mean, if Russia loses points in this period, in these couple periods, or barely holds water, but other people are surging ahead, well, what does that tell you about those? And likewise with the first one, if Portugal and Spain have these big bonuses early on, the Risto event smoothed it out a little bit, but not terribly. What I would like to say is that I think the grand campaign is balanced among a couple of players. I think Spain, France, England, Turkey would be in there if they could match their historical goals, but they can't, or at least I've never seen them do so. I think they all have a shot. Venice, Netherlands? Yeah, it does. You got to get really clever in playing people off of each other once you're the Netherlands. Venice scores good points. Netherlands, we're seeing them still in the lead, or not in the lead, but still in significant position. So now with a takedown of France, if Austria is involved and then the Netherlands have switched to Austria, could actually boost them. So we'll see how that works out if it does. Anyway, that's it for this turn. On to the next.